The documents that you've got that have never been revealed before, once again showing how close the U.S. came, that U.S. leaders were willing to risk world peace in going after Cuba. Talk about Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger deserves much credit for actually taking the initiative to reach out to Fidel Castro through a secret emissary, sending him a handwritten note saying, we should try and improve relations, and let's set up a secret mechanism to start talks. That was in the summer of 1974. And a series of talks did take place, culminating in an extraordinary 3-hour meeting at the Pierre Hotel here in New York City in July of 1975. But you know, the United States has always wanted Cuba to compromise either its foreign policy or its domestic policy to come to terms with the United States. And Fidel Castro had a request from Agustin Nieto in Angola for support against CIA-supported right-wing guerrillas challenging his MPLA movement. Castro sent troops into Angola. Kissinger was irate that a pipsqueak, as he kept calling Fidel Castro in meetings with Gerald Ford, would actually project military power into another continent and thwart Kissinger's kind of chessboard design of the Cold War on that continent. And he ordered up these contingency plans, which are now in the news and posted on the website of the National Security Archive. Our book, Back Channel to Cuba, broke this story of these documents, and they were pretty powerful. Contingency plans for airstrikes, mining of the harbors of Cuba, a naval blockade perhaps. In the Oval Office, he said to Gerald Ford, I think we're going to have to smash Cuba, get them out of Africa. We might have to wait till after the 1976 elections. Of course, Gerald Ford fortunately lost the 1976 elections.
And Carter came in and talked about what happened to those plans.
Well, Carter certainly did not pick up on those plans at all. He had a completely different perspective of dealing with Cuba and all sorts of other countries with which we did not have close relations, which we had hostile relations. In fact, he told Bill Leogrand and I when we interviewed him that he had a broader approach, civil dialogue, even positive relations with enemy states was much preferable to military hostilities. And so he also attempted, picked up on kind of where Kissinger had dropped the issue of trying to normalize relations, and engaged in a series of secret meetings and talks with the Cubans as well, which are detailed rather extensively in this book.
Well, William Leogrand, can you talk about where you got access to these documents? Why were they declassified now? How long did it take for you to get access to them? And how much are we talking about? How many documents did you get access to?
Well, I think over the course of doing the research for this book, we looked literally at hundreds and hundreds of declassified documents. A lot of them were declassified as a result of Peter's work at the National Security Archive, because the archive has really been a leader in forcing the United States government to declassify things that it'd prefer not to through the Freedom of Information Act. These particular documents and some ones that really were just released a few weeks ago continue to document this hidden history. We're all very familiar with the 50 years, 55 years now of hostility between Cuba and the United States. What most people don't know is that every president since Eisenhower has negotiated with Cuba about one issue or another. During the Kissinger and Carter years, it was about normalization of relations. In other years, it's been about smaller issues, but no less important ones, like finding peace in southern Africa. And we were determined to unearth that history, and getting these documents was the key link for being able to do that.
And how many times did the Cuban government take the initiative to open a dialogue with the U.S. in the same period of time that you looked at?
What's really fascinating is that the Cubans repeatedly took the initiative to try to improve relations. Essentially, every time a new U.S. presidential administration came into office, Fidel Castro would make some sort of initiative. Sometimes it was private, through private emissaries. Sometimes it was very public, in 1964, for example. The Cubans just repeatedly made an effort, which suggested to us that, in fact, the Cubans were really interested in trying to normalize the relationship with the United States, but not on any terms. As Peter said, Cuba has its own foreign policy, has its own domestic arrangements, and has never been willing to make major concessions in its foreign policy or in its domestic social and political organization for better relations with the United States.
Your chronicling of the negotiations that were taking place. Even people in this country don't realize the number, the hundreds of attempts on Castro's life. And you told this interesting story of a U.S. negotiator for the United States, Joe Donovan, on the one hand negotiating, and then he's being undermined by the CIA. Explain this story to bring a gift to Castro that will kill him.
Yes, we talk about this story literally on the very first page of the book. James Donovan was a New York lawyer, very famous for organizing a prisoner swap with the Soviet Union. And John F. Kennedy picked him to first win the liberation of the Bay of Pigs prisoners, over 1,000 prisoners and their families. And then the CIA sent him back to kind of win the release of 3 CIA agents that Fidel had in his jails and arrange a prisoner swap there. And he was doing confidence-building work with Castro. He was doing shuttle diplomacy back and forth from Miami, and he brought him all sorts of little gifts, including a wetsuit, a scuba diving suit, and a watch, and a snorkel, etc. And when one branch of the CIA, the Executive Action Branch, which was the euphemism for the assassination branch of the CIA, found out that he was going to be bringing this wetsuit, they concocted this plan to poison it. They had a particular poison for the snorkel, a different poison.
They were going to put tuberculosis in the snorkel?
They were going to put tuberculosis in the snorkel, I believe, and a special fungus in the wetsuit. And Donovan had these handlers at the CIA who liked him and who were positive about him, A, negotiating the release of their fellow CIA guys who were in prison, and B, you know, possibly actually making progress on better relations with Cuba. And they basically said to him, we're going to keep control of this wetsuit in our possession so that other people in the CIA never get it and can't contaminate it. And, you know, that was an opening story to show that the tug of war between some people over the course of these years in the U.S. government who really were focused on improving relations, and the kind of hardliners who all they wanted to do was either assassinate Fidel Castro, start a counter-revolution in Cuba, and you know, basically bring the force of the United States down upon the Cuban Revolution.